coverage. That's our next story. And last we get you, well, after Iran, what next? Regime change is the target for Iran, but it seems Donald Trump may not stop there. Cuba could be next after Iran, and Donald Trump has said that in so many words. But first up, let's get you the latest that's unfolding in this conflict. Well, a week is almost a lifetime when you talk about a war. More so, a war that is not just about two countries. This is now a war that has spread through the entire Middle East and still continues to escalate, widening minute by minute. The latest update that is coming in is that IDF has claimed that 50 jets bombed Khamenei's underground bunker. And that's still being done to ensure that there is no remnants whatsoever of any Iranian official staying there. IDF has released this video a week after the first attack that actually wiped out Khamenei and the top leadership of Iran. It's not just that. As far as Iran's next moves are also concerned, it's very clear it will continue to retaliate. Meanwhile, Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian has said that some countries have begun mediation efforts and said that mediation talks should be aimed at US and Israel. What does this mean? Is it going to be Oman, Qatar, or any other country? The terms at which any potential peace talks could take place. More importantly, where does this leave the entire regime change aspiration, which was the primary goal of US-Israel when they started this operation? Operation Epic Fury for Donald Trump and his forces, Operation Roaring Lion for Benjamin Netanyahu. Where do things stand right now is the key question. And my colleague Aditya Raj Kaul brings us up to speed with the latest that's unfolding in a region that remains on the edge as we speak. Listen in.
There's a scale-up in the attacks all across Tehran and other regions across Iran where the ballistic missile launch pads are there. There was, in fact, instruction given to the Israeli military and, of course, the American military as well, that all these launch pads where missiles are being thrown into Israel and also launched towards other countries in the region needs to be completely wiped off. So the capability of the Iranian IRGC and the military to launch these missiles against other countries has to be stopped, and that's the top priority for Israel and America. And these visuals clearly indicate the scale of the operation that is underway. But the reality of the matter is that Iran has thousands of such launch pads all across. They also have a camouflage facility for most of them. Some of them are also hiding in mountainous territory. So it would be difficult to wipe off all of them at this particular stage. It might be time consuming as well. But that's the mission that the Americans and the Israelis are taking off, because before the Americans and Israelis have their own resources depleting, especially the air defense missiles and mechanisms that they have, they want to wipe off Iran's capability to launch these missiles. So many of these missiles are also onboard truck and can be moved from one place to another without any hesitation. So as of now, Israel and America, scaling up their operation all across, Iran, even as there has been a fresh threat issued by the Iranian foreign minister and, of course, the deputy foreign minister, saying that they're ready for a ground invasion and they're not scared of it. They will not come to the talking table, and there's no question of a ceasefire. America and Israel only increasing their military wrath in Iran.
And it's not just about the strikes. There is more as well. Trump administration plans to meet executives from the biggest U.S. defense contractors at White House to discuss accelerating weapons production. The Pentagon is now working to replenish the supplies that have been drawn down by strikes on Iran and other recent military ops. It's not just that. There is more. Formula One is expected to now cancel some of its marquee events in the region. Bahrain and Saudi Arabia Grand Prix will be cancelled, and that will be a huge blow to the entire tourism and the larger ecosystem and economic hub of these countries. The races are unlikely to be replaced, in fact, and that tells you that what lies ahead is more uncertainty, volatility, and possibly long periods of growing instability. Which brings me now to talk about the other story on the broadcast. Well, Zelensky has been seeking time from Donald Trump for some time now. He hasn't been able to get so. But suddenly the Ukrainian president finds himself to be much more useful in Oval Office than what he has been in almost a year. In fact, Ukrainian President Zelensky has claimed that US has sought Ukraine's support in the war against Iran, specifically in countering Iran's Shahid drones. Zelensky said that Ukraine would provide assistance to the US. In response, of course, there is leverage. There is something that Zelensky would like to extract out of it, and that is Patriot missiles. During its war with Russia, Ukraine has developed highly effective means of downing the Iranian-designed Shahid kamikaze drones, which Moscow has been using for much of the four-year war. So Ukraine has been able to master it, reverse engineer it, and is now in a position to tell the Americans and several others to how to ensure that they are able to beat Iranian drones there. What lies ahead? The possibility of this leading to some sort of a major breakthrough, also the larger ramification for entire Europe here, are some of the other aspects that we are going to now put forth to in terms of also the costing here. It's a $1,000 drone, or at least a couple of $1,000s, and you have $4 million Patriot missiles that are actually downing them. In fact, let's put out some of those points here.
Але у нас дефіцит ПАК-3. Так. Наприклад, якщо ми говоримо про зброю під час війни, з якою у нас дефіцит, то ПАК-3 ракети, якщо вони нам їх дадуть, ми дамо їм перехоплювачі. Це рівноцінний обмін. Але ми говоримо про універсальні перехоплювачі, які працюють в будь-яку погоду. Така була зима. Хто ж знав, що відсоток тоді перехоплень буде менший через погоду. Ми працюємо над новими технологіями для перехоплювачів, щоб вони працювали в будь-яку погоду.
All right, that was Ukrainian President Zelensky talking about how he can now be useful. But what really does this trump card entail? Let's put that out, viewers. Kiev has offered expertise against Iranian Shahid drones. The proposal is very clear: drones for Patriot missiles. Ukrainian president understands that this is his moment where he can extract some sort of leverage, and that leverage is the Patriot missiles that US has said that it will not grant because it wants, or it's hoping for some sort of a breakthrough. In the midst of that, it almost looks like that Kiev holds leverage over the drone technology. These are low-cost interceptors. That's a massive alternative to expensive Patriots. As I said, a $4 million missile that actually takes down those $30,000, $20,000 drones. That's the kind of asymmetry that has now come in as far as warfare is concerned. And Zelensky is now clear that he is willing to help only and only if there is some sort of a positive for him, for his situation as well. So that's how the situation is actually expanding, and that's how the warfare is actually changing. Now, in the shadow of the Iranian war, there are now many questions that are coming up as to whether or not the US allies are set to participate. Will this now be a NATO versus Iran war? Will there be other countries that will participate as well? Canada's defense, chief pointed out and said that allies are in talks about possibly helping Persian Gulf states defend themselves against bombings from Iran. In fact, earlier, Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney said that he couldn't rule out his country's military participation in the escalating war in the Middle East. Carney is clear and Canada is clear. They are NATO allies. In fact, while it was very clear what some of the commentary that came in from NATO allies, where they said this is unconsulted offensive action, but at the same time, they understand that this is something that is testing the NATO alliance. Carney's visit to Australia this week was overshadowed by the expanding war in the Middle East, sparked by a massive US-Israeli strike on Iran that killed its supreme leader, Khamenei. Speaking alongside local counterpart Anthony Albanese in Canberra, Mark Carney was asked whether there was a situation in which Canada would get involved. And he said, one can never categorically rule out participation, while stressing that it was hypothetical. Well, 7 days later, viewers, it looks like it's almost not hypothetical. And let's put that out to Staff Cohen, who is in fact a current IDF Special Forces soldier, joins us on the broadcast. Thanks much for speaking to us on NDTV. The question I want to ask you is that 7 days later, there are some very important voices that are coming in from NATO allies. But no one, of course, has completely backed the US, but no one has said that they won't back either. 7 days later, what are the possibilities of now NATO allies joining in the US and Israel?
Well, ma'am, thank you, first of all, for having me. It is a pleasure and an honor being back here. Of course, that NATO allies will be silenced about, stepping into the mud. It's always easiest and it's always more comfortable when someone else is washing your dirty laundry for you. Right now, NATO allies and every democracy, every country within this world that see themselves as a supporter of democracy, of freedom, of human rights, everyone knows that the terror regime of Iran poses immediate danger and threat to everyone. And it's not my personal opinion alone, ma'am. It's their own former leaders' words who said, Ahmadinejad, who ruled Iran from 2005 to 2013, he said, we will convert the entire world into Islam. And it's not enough to be Muslim, ma'am. You need to be the right kind of Muslim, because may I remind you that ISIS chopped down the heads of Muslims in Syria if those Muslims did not know how many rakah.
Mr. Cohen, I think some of that has been established in terms of the reasons, but I'm still asking you the question I did ask earlier, which is that do you expect US to be backed completely by UK, France, Greece, Canada, and other countries? Do not forget the commentary that came in from Spain.
Absolutely. I expect them to do so because this is within their immediate interest, because they're also under immediate existential threat due to the Iranian ballistic missiles and due to their plan, which is a khilafah, convert the entire world or make one Islamic global state. I personally think that France, their leader, they have a weak leader. They have weak leadership. They do not understand the language here in the Middle East, with each other. It's all about tribe, society. It's all about tribe, power, and land. This is what it's about, And in France, they're trying, or the Western world, or some of the NATO countries, they're trying to pursue negotiation with someone that is already on his way to murder them. I would expect them.
But Mr. Cohen, then let me ask you this question. The Iranian president, Pezeshkian, put out a statement saying that negotiations have begun. Earlier, it was Oman and Qatar, but both of them have been battered by the missiles and drones that have been attacked by Iran. Will some of these European countries actually now create that breakthrough opening for negotiations?
I sincerely hope so, ma'am. I sincerely hope so. But when the terror regime of Iran is saying that they're willing to negotiate, you have to keep in mind, it's not just a lie. It's a deep 7th century mentality of propaganda and twisting everything just to steal some time. They have no intention to negotiate, ma'am. They have intention for a khilafah to put women that are refusing to put Iranian women that are refusing to put hijab, face and hair cover. They're throwing them into prison while we send our women.
Okay, I think some of that has been documented, Mr. Cohen, and some of that is the reason why you have a lot of people in Iran also celebrating what has happened, but that still doesn't answer the fundamental question, which way this war is headed.
My grandmother fled Tehran. The only reason that we're here, not in Tehran, is because my grandmother ran away from there. Of course, the Iranian people want and deserve freedom.
All right, I'm going to leave it there, Mr. Cohen. Thanks much for speaking to me on Faultlines.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Turning attention now to the other important aspect of this war, after an American submarine sank an Iranian warship in the Indian Ocean in an attack that has killed at least 87 people. Sri Lanka took control of a second Iranian naval vessel off its coast. Tehran has warned that the US will bitterly regret the torpedo attack on an Iranian naval ship in the Indian Ocean. Sri Lanka has stressed its neutrality, saying it won't take sides as it finds itself caught in the middle of the US-Israeli military campaign against Iran. And that tells you the fast evolving nature of this conflict. On day 7, as things escalate, What is it that could actually lead to a potential breakthrough? And what about countries like Sri Lanka that are actually neutral bystanders who get impacted because their economic zone is suddenly part of the war theatre? Asanka Abegunasekara, who's a political analyst, will join us on the broadcast. But first up, listen in to this soundbite.
Because it was, the goal was not, their aim was not going to war. They went for an exercise, which was arranged by the Indian Navy. There are so many other guests who went there, and they, took part in a parade. And, everything was a peaceful, training course or peaceful training process. So they didn't need, weapons. They actually went to that mission long before the war started.
All right, Mr. Abegunasekara joins us on the broadcast. I think he's joining us from DC, where he's normally there. Thank you so much, sir, for speaking to us. Let me start by asking you, it almost seems like Sri Lanka is caught in the crossfire, quite literally, but also tells that there is no scope even for countries to remain as neutral bystanders in a conflict whose theatre is expanding as we speak.
Yes, absolutely correct. It's in the Indian Ocean now, as you know, the geography of Iran, so it's rightly facing the Indian Ocean. So the next theater, I would say, the significant theater, just like in the Second World War, we saw Pacific and the Atlantic. I see Indian Ocean as this most significant sort of this security theater. And we have felt it. India has felt it. Sri Lanka has felt it. We have rescued now. 2 operations have been carried out. So the Iris Bashir, which went to Trincomalee, and now 200 of them has been sort of transported. So we are following both the countries, India and Sri Lanka, the norms, values which we have committed to the international bodies. I think that's the way forward that we should be working together as India and Sri Lanka.
Which brings me to ask you, sir, that in a conflict like this, where suddenly it is not just about a particular region, you're talking about international waters. Where do you see smaller countries like Sri Lanka, and not just Sri Lanka, actually in this entire conflict? Because in international waters, it could be any nation.
Yes, I mean, the overspill can be to any nation. I mean, what has happened right now is unacceptable. I can agree with the former Indian Foreign Secretary Kanwal Sibal, who mentioned that the US have ignored India's sensitivity. Clearly, India can't, work on as the India's net security provider in the region in this capacity. India has signed Limoa, Komkasa. Sri Lanka has signed AXA, SOFA defense agreements with the United States. But I think we should have been told before. It's also a violation of the UNCLOS, Law of the Sea, Article 58. The nation should be informed because it was in the Sri Lanka's exclusive economic zone. So I think it's a relook at India, a fresh India as well as Sri Lanka relook at US.
Absolutely, many laws have been broken, and in fact, Keir Starmer, the UK Prime Minister, was the first one to raise that concern. But since then, this conflict has passed all those important thresholds when it comes to how many international laws and rules have been broken. I'm going to leave it there. Thanks much, Mr. Abegunasekara, for speaking to us. Turning attention now to the other important story on Faultlines this week. Well, Donald Trump today and on Thursday hinted that his administration could shift its focus to Cuba once the ongoing US military operations against Iran conclude. He started with Venezuela, he then moved on to Iran, and he's already set his sights on what he wants to do next, which is, in his words, fix the situation in Cuba. Donald Trump said that we think that we want to fix it. Finish this one first. Referring to the conflict involving Iran, he added that it would be only a matter of time before Cuban Americans would return to the island. Addressing the largely Miami-based audience, many of whom have Cuban heritage, Donald Trump said that he hopes people will be able to travel back to Cuba, but hopefully not to stay. Now, why are these remarks significant? Well, they come in at a time when tensions continue to escalate in the Middle East. come in at a time when the administration is now looking at a long-term 4 to 6 week sort of a scenario for ending the conflict in Iran, and it is already looking ahead. It is looking at another next foreign policy milestone that it wants to now conquer. Now, how does this all impact? Let's put that out for our viewers and tell you exactly and detail that for you as to what it really means when something like this actually happens. And why is it that Donald Trump really wants Cuba? Well, there is, of course, a regime change narrative. He's done so in Venezuela, where he says he's been very happy. He's attempting to do so in Iran. It hasn't been successful so far. There is a leadership vacuum, but it hasn't led to a regime change. And the broader messaging he wants to put forth is that he's willing, and his administration is willing, to confront communist regimes. That's the first key aspect of why he wants Cuba. Second is strategic location. Cuba sits in the backyard of the United States, just 150 kilometers from the US mainland, and Donald Trump would go down in history as the US president who managed to overthrow a communist Cuba regime about 50-odd years after that Cuban missile crisis. Countering rival powers, particularly in intel and security cooperation, that's the other aspect. Then there is the historic US-Cuba rivalry, ties of which has actually been strained for decades now, all of which Donald Trump hopes will, well, if nothing else, bring him a Nobel, who knows. Roll back Obama-era policies, that's what he's already done. And Barack Obama was the one who normalized ties with Cuba. But Donald Trump, as I said, is itching to go down in history books, and Cuba could be the other big thing that he wants to quote-unquote fix. All right, on that note, we wrap this edition of Faultlines. Thanks so much for watching. Up ahead is that big exclusive that is flashing at the bottom of your screens, India Matters with Shiv Arur, and you have the famous air chief on NDTV after this very short break.
Now that retirement's here, it's time for me to focus on the things that really matter in life, like making sure my family can manage funeral costs when I'm no longer around. Which reminds me,
Welcome to British Seniors, the UK's #1 rated provider of over 50s life insurance.
hi, I'd like a quick quote, please.
No problem. We're proud to offer our seniors lifetime guarantee. With 100% of claims having been paid, we guarantee your premiums will never go up and that you'll speak to one of our specialists in the UK. UK residents aged 50 to 80 are guaranteed to be accepted. Depending on your age, your loved ones can get a cash payout up to £10,000 when you pass away.
And that money could help cover my funeral costs or be a gift for my grandson. I'll do it.
Plus, when you sign up, you'll receive a £135 gift card and free 24/7 GP advice and health services.
Be proud to protect your loved ones with British Seniors. To get a free life insurance quote today, call our UK team on 0800 881 5090 or visit britishseniors.co.uk.
No child should suffer the torture of trachoma. But so many are in pain right now. Nananga's lashes have turned inwards. They rip and tear away at his eyes. Pamelo's sight could be gone forever. He's just 3 years old. Kofanga screams for his mother. His eyes are so infected that he can't even see her. For so many children in the world's poorest countries, trachoma is torture. It's a painful infection often spread by flies, and it's destroying children's eyesight. But it could be stopped if you help today. By calling 0800 038 4926 and giving £1 a week to Sightsavers, you can help make sure children get the treatment they desperately need. You'll help us bring them the medicines and the care that can treat infections. And that means you'll be helping to save children from the torture of trachoma and a life of blindness. Please help us reach them. Call 0800 038 4926. Text C13 to 82727 or go online and give just £1 a week now. Because we need you to help save the sight of children like Nananga. We need you to help save them from the torture of trachoma.
Dealing with my lot means making smart choices. And with our family growing, I want to protect the life we've built. That's why I'm calling Smart Insurance.
Hi, I'd like a quick quote, please.
OK, you can choose a benefit amount up to £750,000 depending on your age.
Brilliant.
If you're a UK resident aged 18 to 64, you can apply with just a few health and lifestyle questions. For £250,000 of cover, the price starts at just £14.77 a month.
That's less than I thought, and could help my husband pay off the mortgage.
With our Smart Family Guarantee, you'll have peace of mind.
I'll go ahead.
You'll also receive a 100% advance in the event of terminal illness and 10% cashback on your first year's premiums. That's the Smart Cashback. Plus, you get your choice of a £125 gift card.
Protect the life you've built the smart way. To get a free quote today, call our specialist UK team on 0800 977 5753 or visit smartinsurance.co.uk.
Please, can you send someone out? The poor thing is so skinny, I don't think he can walk. Oh, the poor thing. This is awful.
Okay, let me take an address.
Today, the RSPCA will answer over 2,000 calls about animal cruelty and neglect.
It's just completely unacceptable, isn't it, mate?
Today, we will need to take over 100 animals into our care. Today, we urgently need your help to save them. Please call 0800 121 4228. Every minute of every day, animals are suffering heartbreaking cruelty and neglect. Every day, our team works tirelessly to save them. A gift of just £2 a month will help us do even more. Answer more calls, rescue more innocent animals, and provide more life-saving treatments. But today, animals are suffering terrible abuse and neglect. Help us save them.
He's just been left tied up, I think. Poor thing's got no hair on him. He's in a terrible state.
Today, please call 0800 121 4228 or text TODAY to 82727 and give £2 a month. That's 0800 121 4228. Thank you.
At Tesco Mobile, club card prices are frozen, so your contract price stays on ice. So you can get your hands on great deals like our unlimited data SIM for just £20 a month with club card prices, saving you a huge £120. And what's more, it'll stay that way for the length of your contract. It pays to be connected. Search Tesco Mobile. Every little helps.
It feels good knowing that your future's in hand. Evlo can offer you a loan from £1,000 to £15,000, whether it's for home improvements or for some of life's big moments. Evlo looks beyond your credit score and always takes a case-by-case approach. Visit evlo.co.uk to get your conditional decision in minutes.
Ezekiel and his little brother Joseph both have cataracts that cloud their vision. Knowing how tough life with cataracts can be, Ezekiel is worried about his little brother.
It makes me sad. Because if he could see, then he would be able to succeed in his life. But now his life seems difficult because of his poor vision.
These brothers are needlessly facing a lifetime with cataracts, all because the straightforward operation they need is beyond the family's reach. Could you help us support more families like Joseph and Ezekiel's so they can have the surgery that will save their sight? Call 0800 035 7848. Text Site 11 to 78866 or visit sightsavers.tv to donate £2 a month. Help children and young people dreaming of a life without sight loss to finally get the treatment they need.
Elevate your lifestyle with Sharp's half-price sale. At Sharp's, our fitted furniture is always tailor-made and never modular. Many ranges are now half-price, including our must-have Manhattan range. Our exclusive Space Plus system means we won't be beaten on space. Plus, with our industry-beating 15-year guarantee, it's no wonder we're named which recommended provider for fitted bedroom furniture. Don't miss Sharp's half-price sale. Book your free home design visit today at sharps.co.uk.
Careful. Every 3 minutes, another person dies without the care and support they need. This Great Daffodil Appeal is your chance to help change that. We all only get one end of life, so there's only one chance to provide the best possible care. Today, your gift of £23 can help Marie Curie nurses bring expert end-of-life care to more people, whatever the illness. You could help fund the next hour of vital care, because there's only one chance to help ease pain, to help protect dignity, to make precious memories forever. With your support, we can be with you right to the end, day and night.
How's that for you, Farah?
Give £23 to the Great Daffodil Appeal. Call 0800 144 5837 or text NURSE to 70546. Thank you.
Just sorted my guaranteed over 50 plan with Sun Life. There's even a cash payout. Nice one. It's given me the confidence to look after myself. I've started learning jiu-jitsu.
Come on!
Sorry, love. Sensei's turned me into a lethal weapon.
Do you need a doctor?
Oh, no. With Sun Life, there's no medical questions.
Don't miss out on our limited time offer. Call or search Sun Life Plan today.
This is Zena. She had such a difficult start in life. It took a lot of time and care, but thankfully, she's happy and healthy now, with a loving home for life. You can adopt Zena today with the Donkey Sanctuary. And there are lots more lovely donkeys to choose from. Take Walter. He's so playful. He loves to chase his favorite ball. Or Ashley, such a fun-loving donkey. Or calm and confident Drizzle. Adopting a donkey costs from £4 a month. Adopt today and you'll help save donkeys all over the world from abuse and neglect. You'll love your adoption pack with gorgeous pictures of your new donkey friend, and we'll send you more great updates throughout the year. Call 0800 038 1948, visit adoptadonkey.org.uk or text ADOPT9 to 78866. Adopt today from £4 a month and help many more donkeys in desperate need find the love and care they deserve. Thank you.
Likely that American forces were responsible for the strike on an Iranian girls' school that killed more than 160 children and teachers, possibly during an attack on a nearby naval base. On the show tonight on India Matters, outwitted in part by Iranian drones, the United States has done virtually the unthinkable in this war. They have turned to Ukraine's Zelensky for help. Trump has basically told Zelensky, you figured out how to handle Iranian drones. Can you help us do the same thing? A week into this battle, what are the air power lessons? In just a moment from now, I'll be joined live and exclusive by Air Chief Marshal B.S. Dhanoa, who was the Indian Air Force chief during the Balakot airstrikes. He's speaking out for the first time in the middle of an unprecedented and historic air battle. Let's get started with the breaking news tonight. 1 week into the Middle East war, with Iran under siege, there appears to be no end to the precision aerial bombardment of Iran. The precision airstrikes continue unabated. In fact, they've actually scaled up. If you look at the sheer numbers, 1 week in, US and Israel have ramped up the Air Force offensive. The Indian Air Force is watching all of this very, very closely. Balakot Air Force Chief has decided to speak out, and first an exclusive here on NDTV. This is a story that is now 1 week into this entire war, and we are awaiting more of an official. Joining me live for his first views, his first words on this battle that began exactly 1 week ago is Air Chief Marshal Birender Singh Dhanoa. He has been the Chief of the Air Staff of the Indian Air Force and also most famously Chief at the time of the Balakot airstrikes. He's been a combat pilot and he has led India in combat operations. Air Chief Dhanoa, good evening, sir. Thank you very much for your time here on NDTV. And it's good to have you spend some time with us 1 week into this war that has been defined largely by a display of air power, by the US, by Israel, also by Iran and the allied countries in that region. I'd like to start by asking you to give us your opening thoughts. 1 week into this battle, you've been looking obviously very closely at how things have been playing out. Your thoughts at this time of what's happening in the Middle East, sir. Welcome.
Good evening, Shiv. Nice to be with you. Yes, like everybody who's who's an enthusiast of air power, I have also been following the conflict. And of course, it is one-sided, in which the Americans have definitely very superior technology. And it seems that they have grounded the Iranian Air Force, as well as they have nearly sunk the entire Iranian Navy. So the first lesson that comes out is that, see, if you don't dominate the air, you cannot have you will not win either the air battle or the naval battle. But yes, land is a different kettle of fish. No, the Americans were owning the air in Vietnam, but they couldn't defeat them on the land. So the first fact is this. The second is that, like the video you are just showing, even if you are inside blast pens, if the enemy has got preponderance in the air, that he can put precision weapons through your roof, and if you have a hardened aircraft shelter, he'll put 2 weapons through the same hole. So there is no way by which your air force will survive. So you have to have the air capability to challenge an adversarial air force, otherwise you will not survive.
Air Chief Dhanoa, what stands out to you in the air battles so far? It began with precision strikes. Obviously, the effort was made to completely dominate and destroy Iran's air defenses. How successful do you think the Americans and the Israelis have been so far?
As far as Iranian air defenses are concerned, I think they have been fairly successful. So what Iranians are responding to is through UAVs and drones and ballistic missiles. So this is a poor man's answer, because they cannot get their aircraft airborne. And with the lack of an aircraft, they don't carry any weight of attack. Yes, some drones have been able to get through. The drones have been able to overwhelm the defenses of the Gulf countries as well as the US. And some of them have been able to get through. And same goes with the ballistic missile. But you can't get an outcome out of that. It is a nuisance value. You can't get an outcome out of that. That is the main reason that they have been successful to some extent, but Americans are not going to bow down because of the drone strikes.
What is your assessment of how Iran has fought back, sir? Is this the best they could have done? This is a country that's been under sanctions. They've not really had access to modern aircraft technology in that sense. With everything that you've seen so far, how do you think they've done?
No, you have to give it to the Iranians, quite creditable on their part, that they realize what are their weaknesses, because they don't have access to technology. If you don't have access to technology, you can't get world-class aircraft, world-class weapon systems. Even if you try and make your own, there are a lot of subsystems that you need to import. So they have been denied all that. So they decided to go on the way of having cheaper drones and try and overwhelm the enemy. And basically the only deterrent that the world has seen that works against the Americans is body bags. If you can create a lot of body bags, the Americans will withdraw. This is exactly what happened when that Beirut military barracks were hit in, I think, 82 or 83 or something. The 300 soldiers got killed and the Americans withdrew. So this is I think the strategy of the Iranians is very clear, is to how to create multiple American body bags so that the Americans feel the pinch. The people at home feel the pinch, and they'll put pressure on Trump to get out of this war.
Because so far the body bags number 6, and all of these were I'm guessing in Kuwait itself, and this was probably a drone or a missile that hit the base in Kuwait. But Iran has also been using some of its longer range weapons to hit the Gulf countries. What did you think of that strategy, sir?
You see, all these countries, which had become advanced weapon systems, they gave up on what we call the air defense gun. So, you see how many drones were used in Op Sindoor. And what kind of damage did they do to us? Just think about it. How come they couldn't do any damage to us? Because we still have our AD guns. And the AD guns took a big toll on the Pakistani drones. And basic things like jamming, the drone sits down. I mean, the cheaper drones. So with these two things, we were able to, neutralize all the Pakistani drones. They couldn't do any damage on Indian installations. And plus the warhead is very small, 35 kg, at best 90 odd kgs. Single aircraft bomb is 500 kgs. Even the Russians have been using drones against the Ukrainian military grid. Electricity grid. But 90 kg warhead, what? It'll go off for a few days, it'll come back again. One Su-30 goes with, 8 bombs of 500 kgs. That grid will not come back for the rest of the war. I'm just trying to tell you, this is the difference between the two. So, yes, this is the best that the Iranians can do. And they were trying to create a large, you can say, casualty rate for the Americans. But they have not been able to, are successful in that. So Americans are carrying on doing whatever they want till the time they feel that they have achieved their objective.
One interesting aspect, since you mentioned the drones, Chief Dhanwa, is that, the Americans have now gone to Zelensky in Ukraine saying that, the Shahid drone that the Iranians seem to have an unstoppable supply of, that has turned out to be a real menace and a bit of a nuisance. Like you said, these drones are able to get through some of those defenses and hit some of the high-value bases in Bahrain, etc. What do you make of that, sir? A superpower like America asking Ukraine for help in how to counter these Iranian drones?
See, first of all, drone is a threat if you don't have the right weapons for it. That is all. The question is, like in our case, we have been using, Air Force has been using combat drones in 2001. In 2015, we got the A1 from the Government of India for close-in weapon systems. What is difference between a close-in weapon system as compared to a normal AD gun? It has got something known as a smart ammunition. And what has the smart ammunition done? Smart ammunition is like a shotgun. Like how do you kill birds who are flying with a shotgun? You put a spray of pellets. Similarly, the smart ammunition, the round is programmed to go and explode on the face of the target. So the smallest of drones will be taken out. Why did Ukraine smuggle so many drones in a truck into Russia and then got their bases? Why small drones? Because with the bigger drones, their air defense systems would have taken them out. And the Patriot system would have been able to take it out. But what Patriot does not have is smart ammunition. So they came with small drones and put them, in a truck. It also shows the Russian policing has failed. Can you imagine anybody getting a truck full of drones in India?
Yeah.
Our police will 100% ensure that this will never happen. So the Russian policing failed. So they got these small drones, and of course, thereafter the Russians didn't have any weapons to take out these small drones. So it is just that they don't have the right weapons. And laser, like some people are reporting, the Americans started using laser. I think if the laser is successful, then of course that will swap all the drones. So what are the Ukrainians doing? Ukrainians also improvised, because they are on the battlefront. First-person view with drones, which are very small drones. So they have improvised. So the Americans are going to learn lesson from them how to improvise. Because like everybody else, the Americans have also done away with their 80 guns. They thought total reliance on very good and sophisticated missiles is the ultimate answer.
Do you think those sophisticated weapons have been validated in this war, sir? Many of those weapons are being used in combat for the first time. Some long-range weapons. You had the F-35 score. It's technically its first air-to-air kill yesterday as well. All of these frontline modern weapons, as it were, are seeing this kind of combat for the first time. In 1 week of combat, as a veteran pilot yourself, do you think they've been validated?
No, they've been fairly successful. The very fact that the Iranians have not been able to shoot down a single aircraft, it means that they have been very successful. There is no doubt on that. But my only contention is that, this kind of a thing which comes new in the scene, initially it will create a lot of ripples and, this thing. But after some time, the systems will be developed to counter it. You can't say, a lot of people say that why do we need manned aircraft? The drones will do the job. Drones will not. Drones will not survive in a thick air defense environment, as it was proved in Op Sindoor.
Finally, one final question, Air Chief Dhanwa. Air Force is watching what's going on between the US, Israel and Iran right now. Are there lessons for global air forces in what they're seeing play out? They've already been watching what's been going on between Russia and Ukraine. But this particular war is seeing frontline aircraft, pronounced use of air power as well. Are there lessons, including for the Indian Air Force?
Of course, there are lessons. Every conflict that takes place, it is studied in detail. I remember when the Yugoslav conflict took place in the Kosovo thing, I was that time in the Air Force, I was the wing commander. We had sent a team there just to find out how had they managed to surprise the Americans many a times, including shooting down of their stealth fighter. So any conflict that takes place, all the Air Forces look very carefully for what lessons are being learned so that they can implement, they don't have to do the same mistakes again. I'm sure the Air Force is doing it. I'm a veteran. I'm speaking to you as a veteran, retired 6 years back. So I can only say what I see on the newsreels like you. I don't have any intelligence inputs with me.
No, absolutely. But, just on a personal note, Air Chief, before I let you go, you've been a war-fighting Chief of the Air Staff, and you've watched the use of air power in Operation Sindoor. Now you're seeing it happen in Russia, Ukraine. You're also seeing it now in this live war situation in the Middle East. How does that make you feel as someone who has always advocated the primacy of air power? It is clearly the center of any future battle and current battle, sir.
It is the center of the battle. It is the opening, I'll say the opening gambit of any battle is air battle. And you have to win that. It is not the center. Like suppose you want to liberate Bangladesh, Air Force can't do it.
Yeah.
They wanted a regime change in Iraq. That they had to put boots on the ground. To think that, I don't know, my personal opinion that if you get will you get a regime change through only air power? I doubt it.